All right, guys, this is Crazy Kev here, and I'm here with Gerald Meerschaert. Gerald, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, Kev. How you been?
I've been good, man. I can't complain. And Gerald, man, you just had a pretty sick fight, and you got a big bonus. I mean, talk to us a little bit more about how you're feeling, and how are things going with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm as happy as can be right now. Obviously, I got a little two-fight win streak going. Uh, Really good win against a tough opponent. A guy who's been ranked before in a not too distant past. So, got to overcome some adversity and put on another show and got another bonus check. So that's not bad either.
Yeah, no, you definitely can't complain when you get a bonus, man. And on top of that, I mean, you got the big record as well too, beating Anderson Silva with the most finishes. I mean, you said it's not a big deal. I mean, has that hit you at all yet? Do you care at all about that record yet?
I'm pretty much in the same boat. It's cool to say, but for now, it's all about what's next. I'm enjoying it as much as I can right now. I'm back into training a little bit this week, just easing back into it. I'll be gone for a week for a wedding, spend some time with the family and recharge the batteries and whatnot, and then I'll be, getting right back to it, and hopefully we'll get somebody on the books for December 14th.
Yeah, no, I definitely think December 14th would be a fun card for you. You called out Paul Craig. I mean, have you heard anything about that matchup? I think that would be a perfect one.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna. I don't know what's public yet, but I know he has something booked, and he's going to be coming to Killcliff to train. So, at least for the immediate future, that's probably not going to happen. So I don't think anybody. I don't even know how many of my coaches knew beforehand, and I certainly wasn't like running around saying like, "Hey, this is who I'm going to call out." So, but it is what it is. It'll be good to have him in the room. You know what I mean? Have another high level guy to train with, but. As long as I get somebody for that December 14th card, I'll be happy.
I definitely think that would be a fun card for you. And with you saying that Paul Craig could be booked, I mean, is there any other guys or maybe who you're looking at for the future?
Yeah, so I was just talking to a couple different people about this, and that I'm not opposed to fighting up or down or anything in between. You know what I mean? I'm My checks are going to get cashed the same way, and everybody in the UFC is tough, right? So I'm not above or below anything. Right now, I know at least for like the lower ranked guys, Chris Curtis is at 15, and I believe he's still like recovering from an injury. Uh, Michelle Pajea and Alex Hernandez are both 13 and 14, and they're booked to fight each other in October. So, unless there's a quick finish there and one of them wants to turn around, or, even if the loser like wants a quick turnaround, maybe that's something that could happen. But unless they want to give me somebody that's higher, you know, ranked a lot higher, which, isn't unheard of, but probably won't happen. I'm sure they'll find somebody for it, but I got no names off the top of my head. That was kind of what I had drawn up, and that got it shot down pretty quick. So we'll just have to see what they say.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean, what about a guy like Bo Nickal? Would you be interested in maybe fighting him in the future?
I mean, maybe in the future. I don't know. I don't know what he's got going on. I feel like he's probably on a much different path right now because I seem to get guys that are about either we're just up there or about to get called up, and I have a feeling they're going to give him a couple more fights before he starts fighting, guys like me or ranked opponents. But I mean, he's good, and if I plan on moving up, I'm sure he's somebody I'll see in the future. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that could be an exciting fight in the future, no doubt about it. And this is your first fight in the new gloves. I mean, how did they kind of feel to be in the cage and use those new gloves?
I didn't really notice a difference. I mean,
Yeah.
I still swung through some leather a little bit. I've heard some guys that have gone a little bit longer say they certainly feel it in their hands, and it definitely feels like there's a little less padding. But again, I didn't get enough work on the feet or anywhere else to really get the feeling for that. But I mean, they felt fine grappling, so I got no complaints.
Yeah, definitely good, man. And on top of that fight, man, I mean, when you got when you were facing Edmund, I mean, it was Edmund was on top. I thought the fight could have been finished. I mean, if the ref would have stopped the fight, would you have maybe thought that was an early stoppage?
I would have in the context of my fight only because we anytime you have a fight in the UFC, the ref comes in the locker room, like specifically for your fight. Like some, other shows, it's hard to do that, and the refs can't come to each individual. But in the UFC, like They have a few different refs that'll be working that night, and they come back to each individual fighter and say, "Hey, I'm working your fight. This is what I'm looking. This is what I'm looking for from you. When I say this, this is what I'm looking at. If I say this, this is close to a finish. If I say, avoid this, it'll be a penalty or whatever." And Mark Smith was very clear about, like, if I have to vocalize that you're in danger, like, show me something or whatever, then you have to move. And anytime he did that, I moved and I showed that I was still in the fight. I changed position, or I tried to change position. I was defending myself. He did make it clear that just covering up and sitting there is not a viable defense. You have to, like, try to change position, and I followed those instructions to a T. It definitely, like, didn't look good. You know what I mean? I understood what it looked like even though I was in there, and even watching the fight back, it was like, he gave me a chance to work, which I really do appreciate. And but again, when he asked for me to move, I moved, and that's all I can do. And obviously, like, we're not too far removed. There's no marks on my face. I didn't take any real damage. Um, I would say each fight is different and specific to itself. Like, had I got dropped with a shot to the chin or something, or a bad shot to the face, and I was really rocked and he started going off on me, maybe it'd be a little bit different, especially if he called for action or for me to move and I didn't move, because then, clearly I would have been probably concussed, right? But it being a body shot, if I would have just curled up in a ball, I'm sure he would have called the fight. But because it's a body shot, it's like, either I'm going to move in a quick second and recover, or it's that bad and I'm not, and there won't be much movement. But again, he gave me the chance to move, and I moved, and, because it was a body shot and it wasn't like a huge cut, or it wasn't like I got rocked on the feet, it was just, a pain thing. It was the right call.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that was the right call. I'm definitely glad the ref let that one go. I'm sure you are too. And on top of that, man, I mean, obviously, Edmund kind of blew his gas a little bit, trying to get that finish. I mean, did you kind of, feel that in the moment too, that, he was kind of blowing his wad in the moment?
Yeah, that was actually, once I got down there and I could feel myself starting to recover and I was defending the shots, I was like, oh, this is great. He's going to tire himself out. Because and I will say this, I think it's, I do think he for sure didn't help himself by trying to get me out of there, by, like, just kind of throwing a bunch of shots. Like, maybe it's all woulda, coulda, shoulda, and, like, who knows if what would have worked or what wouldn't have worked. But had he picked his shots a little bit more, maybe it would be a little bit different, or it would have been harder for me to recover. But he was just going for volume to get the stoppage, and clearly that's the case, because, like, my face is fine. I think maybe one punch slipped through and, like, got me on the forehead, but that was it. There's no, for all 50 strikes or whatever it was, to not have any bruises or lacerations or anything. Obviously, he was just going to, like, spray and get the stoppage, more or less. Um, but I don't think it was just that. I think it was, like, once the second round started, my plan anyway was to start shooting immediately and put pressure on him. And even before I got dropped with the body shot, I was shooting him immediately and putting pressure on him. And as soon as I hopped up, I was shooting immediately and then coming up and starting to throw strikes and shooting again. So, whether or not that happened, I think that was going to be the eventual outcome anyway. And it's, not, he has been known to gas, and I did factor that in going into the fight, but I think it was a lot less that and a lot more that, like, even though it doesn't look like I'm setting the most ridiculous high pace, I am putting pressure on guys. And I've done it in many fights before where I'm wearing on people and I'm making them work. And I'm just going to make it a battle of attrition at a certain point. And if I get in a dogfight like that, I'm going to bet on myself every time.
Yeah, no, and I definitely hear you there. And speaking about betting, man, I mean, we talked about this last card. I mean, you were a big underdog going into this fight. I mean, what's up with the books? Do you think they're finally going to make you a favor your next fight? I mean, what's going on with these guys?
I have no idea. If I had to guess, I'd say no, which I'm sure all the bettors will be happy about. But yeah, I don't know. And this is the funniest thing is, like, not only am I an underdog, but I'm always way more of an underdog to win by submission, which I guess would make sense to have me as a bigger underdog at a finish if you don't think I'm going to win in the first place, except for the fact that submission's, like, pretty much the only way I win. So, I don't know though. Maybe it'll be different the next time, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah, no, like I said, they can't learn. You just keep cashing as a big underdog. But I mean, it is what it is. These bettors are making a lot more money. And, man, going into this fight, you're still rocking. I mean, you got a pretty sweet mustache, man. I mean, talk us a bit more about what came about with that.
Yeah, I had I rocked a beard for a really long time. I've been clean shaven in a couple of fights, but
Yeah.
that was the thing is my wife said, I thought about growing a mustache before. She's like, well, you got to be a dad first, and I've been a dad for a little bit now, and as you can see, I come from the north, so my facial hair is pretty full and thick, even down here in Florida, well moisturized. So I figured it was time. It was about time that I see what's up with the mustache, and I think it's working for me so far. So I'm probably gonna stick with it for a while.
Good. No, I definitely like it, man. You should definitely stick with it. And on top of that, man, when you got your big win, there was like a funny picture of you going around. I mean, what do you think about that picture? If you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. That was some great work. I especially the like whoever added the caption on after that when I saw Ben retweet that, I was like, yeah, that's pretty much that's pretty much how my fights go.
No, definitely an awesome picture, man. I definitely enjoyed it. And man, with you training at Killcliff FC, man, I mean, talk to us a little bit more about some of your best training partners, make you the best version of you.
I mean, pretty much everybody I train with, right? We got for not being like a huge gym, but not a small gym, we got plenty of guys, and I think it's a perfect mix. We get guys, we have our stable of fighters, and then we also get people that travel in and come get ready for fights with us too. Angla Sang, uh, Angla is one of my main training partners for sure. I get a lot of work with him. I train a lot with Impa Kasaganai, Jason Jackson, Delano Taylor, um, guys that aren't in big shows too, but are still really tough rounds. There's plenty of those guys. Shavkat comes and does camps by us. A lot of different people pop in and out, but a lot of tough people. Logan Storley is a very tough guy that's in the PFL Bellator that's always training with us. Um, you know, Gilbert Burns, who's fighting in the main event this weekend, he's another killer. Kamaru Usman trains with us. We got uh, Bailey Schoenfelder's another young big kid up and coming who should be on. I think he's on Dana White's Contender Series in October, I believe. So that's another name to watch out for. Yeah, and I'm forgetting a whole bunch of them, but there's lots of guys. Oh, we got Gregory Rodriguez. Like we got like 4 or 5 UFC middleweights because we got me, Brendan, Gregory Rodriguez, Mark Andrew Burial. Uh, Tuco is a 205er, just got in the UFC as a 205er. So, I mean, even right there, that's a lot of really high level guys that we got in one spot. So it's a pretty special place.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a special place. That's almost like an all-star gym with all the different guys that you just named there. And on top of that, I mean, do you have any like crazy sparring memories or anything like that at that gym?
Uh, not really. And I mean, whatever happens in sparring stays in sparring anyway. But
Right.
I've let's just say I've had plenty of tough rounds with all those guys, and I've uh, I've I've given some good shots, and I've taken plenty more.
No, I definitely believe it, man. And with all those guys you named, I mean, who's maybe some of your toughest partners, I guess, maybe to spar against?
They're all tough, man. Like there's
All tough.
and this is the thing when you get guys at that high level too. Everybody has days where obviously if you're in there enough, you're going to be in there with guys are peaking, and then when guys are just coming off fights. So like if someone's peaking for a fight, they're definitely going to be one of your tougher rounds where they're getting ready for a fight. And we're all in shape at different times, and so that definitely is a factor. But they're all really good guys. They're all very tough work. Uh, I will say it's a different animal, and I know I'm already like mentally preparing myself because I know this is going to be the case. Like when Impa gets ready for his like, because this happened last time too, and I trained with him a lot for his last PFL finals because he was fighting a left-handed guy that was kind of a grappler, and this time he's fighting a guy. I don't know if he's lefty or not, but he's probably wrestles and grapples more. So I know I'm going to be getting in some rounds with him. But Impa's a different animal when he's getting ready for that $1 million final. So and it's I had to tell him once before, and he was getting excited. I was like, hey man, I'm not fighting for $1 million. I'm helping you. Like relax. Like don't knock me the fuck out in practice. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we definitely it's all good though. We definitely get some good work in there.
Yeah, no, that's definitely awesome, man. I'm definitely glad you were able to help Impa out as well too. That's definitely awesome. And on top of that, with your fight camp with Edmund, man, I mean, what were some of the things you were kind of doing at fight camp to kind of prepare for him?
Um, just getting good rounds in with any of our guys that are really good strikers. Just making sure I was pushing the pace. Really, like, you do your training in different blocks, but like I really try to minimize the amount of mistakes I'm making first and foremost, because it's really hard to beat a guy that doesn't make mistakes. Obviously, there's still plenty to work on there, but one big thing that I was focused on was just like relentless takedowns. Not, because I knew come that second, third round, I wanted to be relentless with the takedowns, and not only that, but even kind of like forcing a square peg in a round hole, so to speak, because I'm not gonna just shoot over and over with no setup in a fight, right? But if I can do that in training, at least dedicate a block of time in training and sparring to do that, and if I have the cardio to keep doing that, and I can just keep shooting and reshooting and punching and reshooting and like keep that high frantic pace, it's gonna make the fight that much easier. And I think that's, you know, sprinting is a great like not just cardio but power workout. There's different circuits you can do. There's all this different strength and conditioning stuff guys can do, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm absolutely all for it. But there's nothing that's going to get you in shape and ready for a fight like just good old fashioned high intensity sparring. And now that doesn't mean trying to knock each other out, but I mean like really just pushing the pace as far as the volume and like the number of shots and wrestling exchanges you're engaging in and going back and forth from that up down to the striking. I think that makes a really big difference.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's important for sure. It's definitely some good techniques there. And on top of that, man, when you are in the gym, when you're training and whatnot, I mean, when you're doing your grappling, I mean, what was maybe some of the hardest techniques you were trying to master when you first started grappling?
When I first started grappling, when I first started grappling, I was terrible. Uh, I remember, I'll never forget this, and it's funny to tell guys this now because they just like assume that I've always kind of been good at grappling. And like, dude, when I first started, one of my coaches let me put him in a guillotine. Like he just sat there and let me put my arm around his neck, and he was like, "I don't understand what you're doing, but like." You're squeezing my neck and it's not any harder for me to breathe. Like you're not choking me at all. So that's whatever like zero is, I started below that.
Wow, so that's incredible. So when you're grappling and stuff in the gym, I mean, do you ever do any sort of gi training as well too, or do you leave it off?
Yeah, I haven't done gi training in a long, long time, and it's not like uh, I'm not like 100% opposed to it, but it doesn't really serve any purpose for me at this point. Especially because I live in Florida. So even if you wanted to make the argument of like, well, people wear sweaters and coats and you can use that, it's like, yeah, kind of for some stuff, but probably not where I live, first of all. And second of all, anything you could do, like if you're going to make the self defense argument, I'm not saying there's nothing you could use. Like there's for sure things that you could use and could work, but no gi will always work for one. And two, so much of my time is dedicated to MMA training that like I'm not gonna take away time from like my MMA training or my strength and conditioning to dedicate to gi training when it's like, why wouldn't I just do more no gi training then? It just doesn't make sense to me right now because I just don't have that kind of free time. If I did, or when I'm retired, I might throw on the gi once in a while because nothing wrong with it and it's fun to do. But for now, it's pretty much just strictly like MMA based training. And even if I'm rolling no gi, I'm rolling with the idea in mind that like I'm gonna try to use this in a fight.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. That definitely makes sense. And when it comes to submissions, I mean, what's maybe some of your favorite submissions that you hit in the gym?
I mean, pretty much what I hit in fights. I like choking people. You know what I mean? Leg locks are cool to hit on people just because it makes them feel kind of dumb. So I'm like not opposed to doing that. And I like pulling tricks out of the bag once in a while. But uh, you know, rear naked choke is a great submission. The head arm triangle I hit in that fight, I like hitting that a lot. And it's just kind of a unique way to like I finished it that way on purpose, and it's a unique finish that I haven't seen too many people do. So, but yeah, anytime you can choke someone, it's a good day.
Yeah, no, it's definitely pretty cool, man. And speaking of leg locks, man, I mean, why do you think leg locks don't really work too much in MMA? You don't really see those finishes, I guess you should say.
Well, I wouldn't say they wouldn't work. It's just that you gotta. finding the way to make them work in MMA is going to look very different than the way they would work in a jiu-jitsu match because you can get punched in the face. You know what I
Right.
mean? So I would never say that they, it's any submission will work. It's the
Right.
application of the submission. And like, you've seen Ryan Hall, like, he's had losses, but he's had a really good success with leg locks. So obviously, like, there is a way it can work. Now, taking the time to get that good where you can implement those leg locks and like kind of exclusively do that, or like even a Gary Tonin where it's like he hits leg locks, but he also hits a lot of rear naked chokes where it's like, pretty exclusively grappling, and he even like throws a little more hands in ONE FC, but he goes for leg locks too and has hit him in MMA fights. To get it to work in that context just takes, first you got to get good at leg locks in general in nogi, which is its own thing, and then you got to get good at leg locks in a way that's not going to get you punched in the face, right? So you really got to be good at the positioning aspect, which is going to help the finish anyway, but positioning and off balancing in such a way that you're not going to get hit. You know what I mean? Not just off balancing them when they could still swing, but off balancing them where they got to put a hand on the mat or they fall all the way over, right? And the third most important thing that I think a lot of people fail to factor in is you got to be good at all those things, plus doing it against somebody that has no incentive to play the game with you, right? Because if you do leg locks in a jiu-jitsu match, they could bail and run away, but if they do it enough, they're going to get like penalty points on them, right? Or they're going to get called by the ref or something, or they're going to get forced to start in a bad position. Like you can't just keep running away. But in MMA, if anything, you're kind of rewarded for doing that. So like anytime there's any threat of a leg lock, not only do they got to be good at doing it, not getting hit in the face and off balancing you, but they got to do it in the way that you can't run away while all those things are happening, right? And if you commit so deeply to that, chances are you're probably going to give up something else unless you're really, really, really good at them. So any kind of grappling, and I think that's why you see wrestlers do, you know, be dominant because the big part of wrestling is control. Whereas in like jujitsu, there's a lot of things, and not to say that there isn't control in jujitsu, but when you compete in a jujitsu match, the guy's trying to play the game with you. In MMA, they're trying to do anything but jujitsu, generally speaking. So it's just unique in that sense.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a pretty cool insight when it comes to the leg locks and stuff. Now, when it comes to grappling in general, I mean, who do you think is maybe the best grappler in MMA right now?
Um, I mean, you literally you would just have to look at who has like the best accolades, or like ADCC wins or something. So I know Buchecha was fighting in ONE FC, he would be right up there. Gary Tonin obviously fights in ONE FC, he would be right up there. If you're talking about MMA in general, um, if you're talking UFC, I think I don't remember if Maya officially retired or not, but he would have been one where he was an ADCC champion, I believe. So he's at the top of the heap. Gilbert Burns won a lot of very high level. I think he won worlds before and stuff like that. So he's a very high level grappling competitor. But if you're going off of like grappling and MMA performance wise, those guys definitely fit the bill. And there's other guys that have never done jiu-jitsu, right? Like Islam Makhachev has very, very good MMA grappling, right? And
Oh yeah,
it's not necessarily based in quote unquote like jujitsu, even though he's using a lot of jujitsu moves. It comes from sambo, which is pretty much just MMA with like slightly different clothing. So
fair enough. No, I'm definitely glad you mentioned some guys outside of the UFC as well too, because I definitely think that's important as well too. And there's definitely some awesome names, no doubt about it. And Gerald, man, it's been awesome talking to you. Like I said, I'm super glad I got you back on the show, especially after a massive win too. Thank you for coming back on. And Gerald, what's maybe your final message out there for the fans watching this video?
my final message to any fans watching this video. Well, you've seen in my fights before, the old saying, if you get knocked down, just get back up. You can pretty much achieve whatever you want through hard work if you're just stubborn and persistent enough. So if you got something you're chasing after, keep working hard and you'll get there.
That's right. And Gerald, I hope you get the call December 14th, man. Like I said, you're definitely put on an exciting show, and best of luck with what's coming to you. Thank you again for taking the time, my man.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Kev.
All right, man. Best of luck, and we'll stay in touch. Thank you again, my man.
That sounds good, man. Take it easy.
All right, you too. Thank you again.